That's good tea. Oh, hey there. I hear you like to learn about the area of a triangle, so we'll go through that today. So as you would be aware, we have our formula for the area of a triangle, which you'd be quite used to. Having trouble with my computer now. There we go. Which is the area is half the base times the height. But we can also use this formula here using a bit of trigonometry. Now, for those of you that haven't watched the video where I explain how it comes up, if you want to know why we can use that formula and why it's sort of derived from the normal area of a triangle formula, watch the video on the proof. It's a pretty short video and it shows you how that comes up. So this particular lesson will just deal with how to apply that formula, not how we come up with it. Importantly for standard maths, we don't actually have to know how a formula is derived, we just have to know how to apply it. So really important here, and I'll run a bit of pink highlighter through this, or there we go, is that in that formula, A and B are two side lengths, and C is the angle between, and I'm going to put a lot of, and I might just put some arrows there and make it really clear, it's the angle between the two sides. All right, if you don't have an angle in between two sides, then you can't use this formula. So as we look at it here, we've got an angle in between two sides. So this is a time where we can use that formula. So we want to determine the area of triangle PQR. So we just use that formula, area equals half AB sine, and we use a capital C for the angle and lower cases for the lengths. So that's going to be a half times the length of A. It doesn't really matter which side you call A and which side you call B. 20 times 12 times sine 41 degrees. And at this point in this course, you just plug all of that into your calculator. So let's run that through. So we're going to have a half times, I'll use the mouse, it's a little bit easier, 20 times 12 times sine 41. And that's it. Press equals and you've got your area of your triangle. So in this case, doesn't say what the units are, so we'll say in units, so we'll call that 78.7 units squared. Remember, we've found an area now, so it's units squared, not just units, and obviously that's to one decimal place. Okay, so as we roll along here, here we have another example. So we need the angle, which we've got here, and we need the two sides that are on either side of the angle. So we're going to need this one, we're going to need this one. The other bit of information given is useless. We don't need that information. It's just there to confuse you. So make sure you understand it's the angle between two sides that you know the length of. So as we have a crack at this one, we use that formula. The area equals a half AB sine C. So that's going to be a half. Now once again, it doesn't matter which one you call A and which one you call B. 10 times 12, that's your lengths. And whatever follows a trig ratio is always an angle. It's always degrees. So that's 103 degrees. Plug that into our calculator. So a half times 10, once again not using the mouse, times 12 times sine 103. We press equals and we get 58.5. No units on this one, so we'll say units squared, and that's to one decimal place. Remember that obviously it's in square units, make sure you get that right. Silly to do all the hard yards and not get them full marks at the end. Okay, so we might end up with a situation like this where in this particular triangle I have an angle but I don't have the two sides opposite the angle. What I need to do this one is I'm going to need that angle there because it's between the two sides I know the length of. So in this particular example though, I do have, I'll just use my little rainbow pen here. These two are linked. I have a side and a matching angle. And if I use the sine rule, I could match up that angle with that side. And if I knew what this angle was, I'd know two of the angles in a triangle, then I'd be able to work out what the third angle in the triangle is. So we're going to have to use the sine rule first. So sine rule first. And we know that that's going to be, the thing that we want to know is going to be sine C. So sine C on C equals sine A on A. And we just substitute in everything we know. So we don't know the angle, so sine C just remains like that. But the side that it is opposite is 12. Sine A is going to be the sine of 85 degrees. And that's opposite side A, which is a length of 19. So we're going to end up with sine C equals 12 sine 85 on 19. I've just multiplied both sides by 12 to get rid of that denominator. So I put that into my calculator. So create a fraction, 12 times sine 85 over 19 is going to give me that number there. So I'll call that 0.629. I'm not going to get rid of it out of my calculator though. I'm just going to write down now so I can show that I've done the step. And then obviously C is going to equal sine to the minus 1 of that 0.629 ... So we just go back into our calculator, we press that shift sign button because we're after an angle, then we press answer to bring up the ratio we just used, and we'll get our answer. So that's going to be 38.98 degrees. In the circumstances, I might just call that 39 degrees to nearest degree. Okay, so that's step one, and I might put that up here and I'll say that's sort of step one, and then we're going to move on to step two. So I'm going to find the other angle. Why are we finding the other angle? Well, so far now we know that this is going to be 39 degrees in here. We just worked that out. But the angle we actually need is this one up here, is the one that I highlighted in green earlier. So, well, that's a rather simple process. Obviously, there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So if I call that angle B, so angle B plus 39 degrees plus 85 degrees is going to equal 180 because they all add up to 180 in a triangle. So B is going to equal 180 degrees minus 85 degrees minus 39 degrees. We'll use our calculator for that. So 180 minus 85 minus 39. So that's going to give me 56 degrees. So now that I know that that's 56 degrees, now I've got two sides I know the length of. In pink here I've got, I pressed pink and pink didn't come out. In pink here I've got that side I know the length of, I've got that side I know the length of, and now I know the angle that's between them. So now I can finally do step 3, which is to use the formula. So that is the area equals half AB sine C. So that's going to be a half times what were our A and our B lengths, 19 and 12. Once again, it doesn't matter which order I put those in. It could be 12 times 19, it wouldn't matter. And our angle we worked out was 56 degrees, so sine 56 degrees. So once again, we're now at the stage where I can just plug all of that into my calculator and get myself an answer. So a half times 19 times 12 times sine 56, close my brackets, and there we go. So 44 point, we'll call that 44.8. The units given in the question weren't there, so we'll just say units squared. And that's to 1 decimal place. Okay, that's a rather involved question. Chances are if that was a HSC question, it'd probably be stepped out. So it'd ask you to use the sine rule first, then it would ask you to find the angle, then it would ask you to use the area. Maybe right up the back of a HSC paper, you might find that one left like that, just to test out people for band 6 level questions. So the final example, it says it's a higher level question, and that's probably fair enough, it probably is. I actually think the one before is probably a little bit more difficult. But what we've been asked here is we've been given the area, we've been given the area, and what we've been asked to do is to find the angle PQR, which is that angle in there. So obviously that's the angle in between two sides that we know. And we already know the area, so if I was to use my area formula, the area equals a half A, that's a terrible A, AB sine C. Well, I just start substituting in what I know. The area is 146, half times A, which is 24, times B, which is 19, times sine C. So the only thing I don't know is C, so I can solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I might just make that a little bit easier to deal with. I might just calculate what all of these numbers here are first. So I might just find out what a half times 24 times 19 is, because that might make things easier to move around rather than having fractions and numbers to deal with. If I just deal with, well, what do those numbers even add up to, or multiply up to? So 24 times 19, so that's going to be 228. So I can just simplify this to be, I can just simplify everything on this side to 228 times by sine C. That just makes my life a little bit easier as far as simplifying goes. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to, because this is being multiplied by sine C, if I divide by 228, that'll get rid of that pesky 228 there. They're going to cancel out. And so we're going to be left with, and I'm going to leave this fraction alone. I'm not even going to bother simplifying that. I'll just leave that as 146 on 228 equals sine C. Now, if that's the case, we've done this already. We just know to find the angle, we just have to go sine of the minus 1 of the fraction. So C is going to be sine of the minus 1 of 146 over 228. So we put that into our calculator. So shift sine because we're finding an angle, and we're going to go 146 over 228, and that's going to give us an answer of 39.81799. And I'll just go back and look at the question and say, what does it say I need? It doesn't say if I need the in degrees and minutes or whatever, so it's pretty much up to me how I display that final answer. But what I might do is I might display that in degrees and minutes. So we'll just do it to the nearest minute, so it's going to be 39 degrees, 49 minutes. 39 degrees, 49 minutes. And that's to the nearest minute. Well, that's terrible writing. So yeah, not altogether too difficult, and probably not as hard as the one beforehand where we had to do the sine rule first to get the answer. But that's all there is for those. So just get used to applying that formula, but the main thing you have to remember is you need the angle between two sides. Otherwise, you can't use this formula. You may, however, be able to do other things first to find what that angle between the two sides is so you can solve the question. That's the end for today.